Guys, are we on?
I think we're on. I think it's on.
We're back,
This is
baby.
great.
Is this thing
Because
on?
I've been waiting all week to share this news with you.
Ooh.
I have an awesome opportunity. I got this flyer
Can we see it?
for the
Okay.
audience. You can see it. I got this flyer. I'll just read it to you, so you don't
okay.
have to strain your eyes to read it. It's a new church that we're all invited to join.
Oh,
It's
A
called
new church?
Astrotology.
Really?
Ooh.
That's actually what it's called?
It's it's a new church, I say, but it's new to our reality,
Oh, I see,
not
I see, I see.
to existence. It's-
not
okay.
to the many planes of.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
to Xenu.
not to Xenu, not to Morphdew, not to Gorlock, and
Oh.
definitely
Grebulon?
not to Thnorlosh. That's what it says. Sorry, I'm new to the
Thnorlosh.
names.
Sure, sure.
No,
So
You're good,
I'm
I
just
get
going
it.
to kind of give you just a couple bullet points, brief history. Again, what's on the pamphlet, and we can kind of decide if we want to join.
Okay, I'm
So
ready.
it says it was created by a science fiction writer named G. Heffer Sunderberg.
Okay.
Cool guy who, I mean, I looked into him. Sounded like one time he told his wife that he murdered their child Stoozy,
Stoozy.
but that was not real. That was he just
That
lied
was a
about it. That was
lie.
a joke.
Okay, it was
that
a
was a
prank.
That was
joke.
a good... Okay.
If you join, like, members get to talk a lot about their intimate life, inside the bedroom. I mean, that's kind of fun. In fact, you're pressured a little bit to do that. It's kind of strange. We also believe in the church, it says, mental health doesn't exist. So we can talk about your intimate life, but not the stuff that, you're making up, this mental illness. Talking about the real things.
That's
like
good.
Right.
Thnorlosh. So,
Right.
kind of sounds fun. There's a lot. Don't maybe research it because there's a lot of things, a lot of misinformation, a lot of things like prison camps and the FBI and
Okay.
the apocalypse, which is coming.
Right. No, that's on the way.
But things like if we censored Wikipedia, that's not the case. That's not the case.
Oh, you're already in it.
Sorry, I'm reading the.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
he's
okay.
just
I see, I
reading
see.
what it says.
Yeah, it's verbatim what I've said
Well,
so far.
You've been
Yeah.
reading, yep.
But you're probably thinking, okay, so what are the major benefits to joining?
I am.
Right now, you got a
I'm
little
on
bit
board.
of the history.
I'm already
You-
pretty convinced, but benefits are just like an added bonus at this point.
Well, especially because for the last 4 nights in my dreams, it has just been me in a dark expanse, and I've heard the name Thnorlosh being said by many, many voices from all directions.
Yeah.
And so hearing that in my waking hours is kind of, significant to me, but I still want to learn a little bit more. I'm still a little bit on the fence.
No, absolutely. The
makes
church's presence within our reality definitely sent waves through the dream space. So it makes sense that you would have heard
okay.
that.
That makes sense.
Some of the benefits are you get to meet celebrities,
really?
powerful people. Isn't that great?
Who's celebrities? What are some of them?
It doesn't have a list, but people you definitely know are part of this.
Is Jonathan Majors? Is that the one he's part of?
It might be.
I think they're actively recruiting him.
Sure.
There.
That makes sense. He's exhibiting pro-astrotology behaviors.
Yes.
Recently.
Okay. He and
another-
Ezra Miller are top of the
Yes,
list.
yes,
Top
you
of the
guys know.
list.
Okay, so here's some celebrities you might be able to meet. Another benefit is you gain the powers to complete the greatest stunts in cinema,
Oh, wow.
regardless of age.
That's a
That's
power.
very
you can
cool.
strap yourself to a rocket and blow
Yeah,
up in
who
space
cares?
and still be alive. And also, the church will spy on whoever you want. You just ask them and they'll do it.
Anyone?
Awesome.
Anyone you want,
Even
like
Jonathan?
your partners. So
Wow.
it's kind of fun.
That's kinda nice.
So if you're interested, I can send all of our information to the astrotology.
Yeah.
Wait, it's called astrotology, you said?
Astrotology.
Astrotology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And again, hey, let us reach upwards. Let us reach the upward existence of infinity and hail the king of ooze, Thnorlosh.
Right.
That
Awesome.
sounds really awesome.
Let's do it. Is
Thnorlosh.
it super expensive? Because I don't want to do it unless it's super expensive to climb the tiers.
Oh, you're in luck.
Good.
It'll bankrupt you.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
But at least when you go bankrupt, you don't lose your student loans. those stick around with you, and they won't pay them off when you do go bankrupt. So.
And when you die, they are put onto your family and cosigners. So
that's nice, but that's only from the stipulation of the religion, because typically that doesn't happen. But thankfully to astrotology, when you die, your student loans continue to live on through your family.
Well, thank you, astrotology, for coming to our reality. Let's hope we can all reach that upward existence together in infinity, and let's get into another episode of Man Cave Movie Night.
Now known as Astrotology Cave Movie Night.
Mantology Astro Night.
And welcome back to Man Cave Movie Night, the only podcast sponsored by the King of Ooze. I'm Jared.
I'm Niall.
Lucas.
And we're here to talk to you not about religion, not anymore. Instead, we're here to talk to you about kick butt action movies.
Yeah.
Cool.
7 of them.
For some people is a religion, you know. So
Oh yeah, big time.
It is not a surprise to anyone who listens that this is one of my favorite action franchises, one of my favorite franchises of all time. We are talking, of course, about Mission Impossible, with which Dead Reckoning Part 1 has just hit the theaters.
Part 1 of 4. So
That's
you know,
not true.
No, it's not. Oh, you pulled a fast one on me.
They Dead Reckoning goes through 10. 7, 8, 9, 10 are all Dead Reckoning, Part 1 through 4.
Great.
Great.
Well, I'd be here for it. We're going to be talking about,
10
I guess,
Reckoning.
our experience with the franchise, what we love about them, what we hate about them. You know, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. But let's jump right into just kind of the franchise itself, led by our boy Tom Cruise. Who's
love
not
Tom.
Interested in astrotology for some reason.
Yeah, that is surprising.
He's not at all
I think
interested.
he signed to another team
Agency.
at some point. But,
Did you guys see that image that I put on our Instagram story?
did. It was
of
very
him at a
funny.
Scientology pulpit, like speaking like this, with his hand up.
It was really funny. But I will clarify. So I think for those who have not kept up with Mission Impossible over the years, you might not be
Idiots.
aware of this, but they're kind of almost as like a Fast and Furious style, like a readjustment of the approach, where like it kind of seems, at least what I'm remembering of Mission Impossible 3, which I've seen one time in theaters when it came out, between that and 4, it seems like there's not even like a tonal shift, but just kind of more of a, you know what, these are going to be a little more action-y and like big set piece type things rather than kind of these small contained espionage things. And so it's kind of like the series exists in 2 phases of like the 1 through 3 and then 4 through 7, which is kind of this altered era that honestly is so appealing. Oh, they're all cool, but like this new approach is just it
Way
feels
better.
like it's coming up with the stuff and other people are adapting to it, you know? Like it feels very much like Mission Impossible is still kind of pioneering the genre, which is super, super cool to see.
Yeah, that was when they first started subtitling them too, which is cool. And all of the names have been bangers.
Yeah.
I think every single one they've come up with has been awesome. So, Jared, you can say your things that you wanted to say.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say it kind of comes maybe with just the time periods they were coming out. They've lost a lot of the camp that came with the 90s and early 2000s and have since in the 2010s and onward have gotten a lot more of a, I don't want to say a grounded approach, but instead of Tom Cruise,
a little bit, almost.
like in the second one, truly, I keep saying this, and it's unreal, he does so many flips in that movie. Front flips, back flips, you name it. Necessary? Never. consistent, like always, impressive, yes.
Yes.
But you kind of shift from that to a little bit more of these big stunts that are really well executed and feel more gritty and more real, right?
Yeah.
And I love that transition. I think the first Mission Impossible feels a lot like the first Fast and Furious for me, where it's very iconic. You understand why it's so important in film, right? I think they're both important in film.
Big time.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Big time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're not the best. And
No.
they've now found the rhythm.
Fast and Furious.
Both.
Yeah.
They found a rhythm that keeps delivering in their own ways.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think it's very interesting. That first Mission Impossible movie is so rad. And it's interesting that it was directed by Brian De Palma, who is the guy who made Scarface and some other
Oh, nice.
classics
that.
of the 70s. He's like one of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese's buddies. He was in that group of friends. And yeah, he kind of set the tone for this. It's interesting how Dead Reckoning kind of harkens back to the first one as well, with Kittredge showing back up. He hasn't been in any since the first one, which I didn't realize. And yeah, I think the second one is the worst one, pretty much by a pretty good
Yeah,
margin.
big margin.
Yeah, because all the other ones I really like a lot. And so, especially this new one. I think, honestly, this might be a hot take, but I think the new one is my favorite. It might be my favorite movie this year.
Ooh.
I loved it.
I loved it
so
so
cool.
much. I seriously, and I've been seeing a lot of on Letterboxd with friends and things. I've seen a lot of this new one's awesome. Fallout's still my favorite, which honestly I totally understand, but I think there was just something about Dead Reckoning that resonated with me, and I think I finally figured it out, which is 3 of the most beautiful and perfect women in the entire universe stood in a circle with each other for a little bit. You had Rebecca Ferguson, Haley Atwell, and Vanessa Kirby all looking at each other and interacting with each other, and I was like, this is unbelievable. This is happening right now.
I guess let's just talk about Dead Reckoning for a while, and then we can get into some of our questions.
Sure.
I think that's a good way to kind of move further.
Yeah, and
into it.
I want to note
you're-
I am in the category of Fallout still my favorite.
Okay.
I loved this one. It was great. It's not
Fallout
my
is-
favorite yet, and we'll talk more about it. But
Yeah. I watched this on IMAX. I don't know if you guys did that as well.
We did as well. We drove
Totally
down for it.
worth it. Totally worth it. Oh my
Big
gosh.
time.
It was so cool. And Haley Atwell's first appearance is a huge close up on her face, and she just turns
Yeah.
around, and I literally was like,
Dude, me too. I was like, I truly, because I haven't seen her in a lot since early
Avengers
Marvel,
stuff, yeah.
and I was like, I really kind of forgot just
she's
how
the
amazing
Marvel
you
chick.
are.
Yep.
Yeah.
I leaned over
people
to
kept
Ian.
talking about her, and I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen her before.
Yeah.
She's the Marvel
I don't
chick,
know the
and-
name.
And actually,
That's
the
right, she
kind
did
of CIA guy that's
multi-personality.
chasing them the whole time
Yeah.
also plays the sergeant in the Agent Carter TV miniseries. So that's kind of a fun reuniting thing.
That is funny. And they're married in
know
real
if-
life, too, actually.
That's not true.
No, it's not true.
I was going to be floored.
Yeah, she is the Peggy Carter, who is the lady that Captain America goes back in time to save, or not save, but to live with in Endgame. And I leaned over to Ian, who I was watching this with, and I was like, I fully understand why he did that.
Yeah.
I zero
Yep.
blame to Captain America for going back in time and reliving 80 years, because he's pretty based for that one, honestly.
Totally.
Anyway, moving on from Haley Atwell, this movie was genuinely very incredible. Just, oh man, there were a few scenes in particular as I was watching this where I was just like, this is so cool. This is just such a cool movie. And the first time that really happened was that scene with all the government agent boys as they're sitting around and talking. Even though it's just pure exposition, that whole scene I loved. And then once it's revealed that Tom Cruise is in the room and he gasses everyone, and then it becomes a whole other conversation between Tom Cruise and Kittredge. That was great too. And I was just like, man, this dialogue is killer. They are totally knocking it out of the park with this, just explaining what's happening and what's going on, and I loved it. And the other scene that really like kind of floored me was when Tom Cruise does the stunt in this one, which is him going off the cliff on his motorcycle. The way they play with the sound design in that is just so awesome. Because it's completely silent. Yeah. And I was just like, because you know it's coming, right? That's the one that they've really been advertising. They've shown behind the scenes and blah, blah, blah. But you watch it and it's just like, IMAX especially, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And then the sound comes back in once he activates his parachute, and it's just like,
dude,
wow.
and that sound hits you like a brick wall.
It was so like, oh,
jeez.
Such a
it was cool. I also, not to give too many spoilers about like actual things happening, but I said this in my Letterboxd review. I have to reiterate. I'm certain that it has happened in a movie, but I cannot pinpoint the last time my heart was beating that hard as it was in the train sequence at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
I truly was just like, I don't know how this could be any worse. And it's one of those things where like the perfect like example of the light at the end of the tunnel is there and it's moving away from you as fast as you are moving towards it. And it was just absolutely thrilling. I was beside myself with excitement through that whole sequence.
That was I love the stunts in this. I love the stunts in all of them. Obviously there's a lot of CGI. However, I appreciate how they try and limit the CG as much as possible with all aspects of it, not just like the Tom Cruise doing his own stunts and everything, but it seems like, for example, the chase sequence through Rome, which we got a very similar one in Fast X, was way better in this because it looked real. It looked more real. It was way
this
better.
One didn't have a giant bomb rolling down the street.
That's true. Which was a big strike against it for me.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
I fully agree. However, I will say it is very funny that 2 Guardians of the Galaxy this year have driven massive cars down the Spanish Steps and destroyed them. In this one, it was Palm Clementieff's Mantis, and then in Fast X, Vin Diesel's Groot. So, I just think that's a very odd coincidence.
Driving down those steps, it really was. I talked about this in the Fast X episode, how I was annoyed because one of the big Fast and Furious things is the practical effects, using actual cars for things.
Yeah.
And I remembered in a certain shot of them going down those stairs, I was like, how hard would it have been to actually have a car going down that? And then to see this where you actually have cars going down that, I was like, okay, see, that's what I wanted to have, And it just felt so like they're bumping around and rocking, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, not only are they going down this staircase, are they going to roll their vehicle? Like it's like there's having it actually happening adds so much of a genuine tension that it just, I don't know. That Rome sequence was what Fast X could have been.
Yeah.
At least the Fast X Rome sequence. I don't want to say that I didn't love Fast X.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I'll chime in. A lot of what I loved about this one as well is how smart they played with the new technology villain of the movie kind of thing. Wow. There were so many sequences that were just really smart, and kind of, I think maybe for me set an expectation that we were going to get more of that, and that was going to be the antagonist instead of this kind of other human individual. Again, try not to spoil anything. Sure. But like in the part with Benji pretty early on, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was stressful. Cool. It was so cool. And then like nothing really came of that, or nothing really kind of came of, I wanted more of that kind of mental, what is the big plan of this thing?
The entity.
And how are we fighting against that? Instead, it was still there, still present, still ultimatums the characters had to make and stuff like that. I think I just was hoping for a little bit more of that because it was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
And then there's so much going on, so many characters, that it felt hard to give, some of the original characters, or even just all the characters, a lot to do. It was like every character had a little bit to do, except for Tom Cruise, who did it all.
Yeah.
So, like, there'd be a scene where Benji's like, I'm going to go help, and then he just kind of shows up at the end of it, right? Yeah. Things like that, and I'm like...
I see.
It feels like in Fast X, and this, I think, is just a problem with the two-parter, right?
I see,
There's going to be more that's resolved further on.
Yeah.
And I can't see that yet, right? In this part, right, in Fast X... They're so different movies.
I know, but
it's so funny that we're drawing these comparisons. In Fast X, they had like Han and Ramsey and them who just didn't have a ton going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we need them for part 2, so we just have to show
have
that
them
they're still
exist.
doing stuff. Yeah, and so I'm like, they'll probably do the same thing for like Dead Reckoning part 2, but for me, I just. As far as a story, like in one movie, all the pieces click in Fallout for me. And the big set pieces are there, the huge high-octane action sequences are there, the cleverness of the script is there, and there's no loose ends.
You get a helicopter hook going
be.
inside someone's head.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my justification of why I liked, Fallout more.
Yeah.
And maybe with Dead Reckoning Part 2 out, I'll say Dead Reckoning as a whole absolutely is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? But at the moment, there's just so much that I was like, we're not following up on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Or I really wish I cared more about this one little thing.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme, it's kind of fallen short. So.
Yeah. However, I want to note that because we've gotten, this is now, by my count, tell me if I'm wrong, but the third part 1 of 2 that we've gotten this year. Fast X, Spider-Verse, and then this one.
Yeah,
and
there may be more, but for sure those ones.
Yeah. And what I appreciated about this one that I think that others could kind of improve upon, not even necessarily improve upon, but it sits better with me, that this movie, while still definitely having more to come, feels like an actual, like, part 1, this is a whole movie that has a beginning, middle, and an end with more things that just still need to be resolved.
Yeah.
Whereas Fast X and Spider-Verse feel like almost
half
just
a story.
half of a movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, now it's over and I have to wait for years for the next one to come out. And that's always kind of like, I don't think that's necessarily a problem, but I think it's cool when you can put together a story that definitely leaves more story to be told, but also leaves the viewers feeling entirely satisfied. Mm-hmm. And I felt that way leaving from this movie, thinking like, okay, honestly, if this were just Dead Reckoning and then they were like, all right, and then the next one's going to be not just a sequel, but kind of more of a direct sequel to this one specifically, I'd be like, all right, cool. Like, I'm cool with that, and I wouldn't have felt like, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm rambling.
Yeah, like more of an Infinity War Endgame. Like,
exactly.
I'll pop on Infinity War, don't need to watch Endgame.
Yeah.
But if you watch Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, you're like, all right, well, this is not over.
Yeah, exactly. In the future, when I have them on Blu-ray or whatever, I feel like with Spider-Verse, I'm going to be like, all right, we're going to have a day where we're going to get together and we're going to watch both of them. You know? Not just the first one or just the second one. I don't know.
That's there's an interesting... Because it's like Dune is a part 1 and part 2 as well. And I felt like that was a very self-contained story. There's clearly more to come, but it has a beginning, middle, and end. And I do agree with you now that it is like Dead Reckoning. It feels like satisfactory to me. Like they get the item that they're searching for, and like that plot line is resolved. But there's more to come because they set up a larger plot outside of just that one part of it. And I don't know. Let's talk a little bit of spoilers before we get into the questions, I think.
Yeah, skip ahead like, I don't know, 5 minutes if you don't want to hear spoilers.
But basically, and not like anything huge, but just the idea of the what?
Nothing. Keep going.
Okay.
Skip. They haven't skipped yet.
They haven't skipped yet.
You're about to hear spoilers.
Yeah. But with the key, sometimes there's like those little items in movies that they have to chase, and it's like, okay, come on, really? We have the hard drive, or we have the whatever. And they do in Fallout as well, actually, with the plutonium. But I think it works really well in both of these. I thought the key at first, I was like, I don't know about this. But it turned out to be something very cool, especially because they have like the person who tries to replicate it, and the fact that they're all stealing it and trying to sell it to each other.
Yeah, there's like 3 different scenes with fake ones.
Yep.
So it's just like, all right, well, this is cool.
Yeah,
I don't even
they
know
made it
what's
very
real
interesting.
right now.
They made it very, very cool. And I'm kind of split on starting the whole movie with the scene, with the submarine, with the keys, with the entity.
Did you hear about this? Because I have insider info on this.
I don't. Let me just finish my thought really quick, and then I'm very curious.
I don't want to.
Basically, I felt like it worked for helping us as the audience be in on it, but I almost wished that there had just been the little flashback sequences, so there was an air of mystery to what the key went to, because we already knew all that, right? And it was almost like, wait, did I like miss something with that submarine thing? You didn't. It tells you exactly what it is, but because the characters don't know what's going to happen with that, it's kind of just a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a disconnect with that. Still, now having seen it, I feel like when I rewatch it, it'll be totally fine, and I'll be fully invested. Speaking of, I want to rewatch it as soon as I can because it was so good.
So here's the info that I have about that. Apparently, opening submarine sequence was specifically filmed to be the beginning of the second movie, or involved in the second movie, and the opening of this movie was just going to be delivery guy coming in and finding Ethan and him getting the mission, Yeah. Which in that scene, if you remember, he gets the mission, and the thing is like, you need this key. What it's for and what it unlocks is of no concern to you. Just get it. And so it was kind of set up to be more of a mystery thing.
Yeah.
And then kind of a later in the game decision was to put in that submarine sequence before that to kind of, I guess
like clue us in, basically.
Maybe focus groups or something were like, it was too confusing. I didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
And so they included that, and I really see both sides of it.
Yeah,
I'm
me
like,
too.
I get having that, but also having this movie end with them revealing, okay, there's this submarine.
Yeah.
And then it ends with them having the key, and there's kind of the monologue going on. And then the camera just dives down under the water and just keeps going down and then reveals this submarine. Would have been way cooler if that first scene wasn't there.
Totally agree. And then if it had started with that scene, it would have been immediately giving us context, like, oh, okay, cool.
Exactly.
Now that all makes sense. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's what I've found. I found that on one website and have not corroborated it, so it might be false.
Here's another thing they were kind of toying with doing was having a half-hour de-aged Tom Cruise sequence at the very beginning of the movie, which we had another action movie just do that recently as well. And so, I mean, obviously,
it was
all right, but
well.
it worked for me.
Part of what Christopher McQuarrie said, the director, was that it was distracting. Like, his face was too distracting from the rest of it, and ultimately it didn't really add that much. So there's like brief flashes of flashback, like wave flashback in this, but it's not anything that would take you out of it, or an extended sequence where it's like, I can tell that's not really how Tom Cruise used to looking like, because I've seen movies where he's young. So, I don't know. That's two trains of thought on that. I'm glad they didn't include that, but the bummer with this one is that they have only filmed some of the second part, because they were doing them back-to-back, but because of COVID and everything, it's just been a long, arduous process for the last 3 years getting this made. And they were currently filming it, but unfortunately,
Not
it
anymore.
stopped production because of the actor strike. So who knows? I am betting that this will not come out next year, and it will probably be 2025 when we get part 2, which is a bummer. But that is going to be a lot of things that were supposed to come out next year that will be delayed.
Yeah. Next year and 2025 for some of the longer production stuff. There's going to be a slump in 2024 and 2025.
I think the one I'm most bummed about getting delayed and having their production halted is Venom 3, which was actively shooting, and now unfortunately it's getting pushed back almost certainly from fall.
Venom
Is
3.
Craven still going to come out?
Craven is fully shot, so yes, it is going to come out. Everything that's already been
Thank goodness.
There's some
and Madam
justice
Web,
in the world.
Madam Web as well will come out.
Dude, I hope that
'cause
these
that's-
strikes make Sony go bankrupt.
I do too, so they can't even release. But then they wouldn't be able to release Spider-Verse Part 2, because that's not done yet either.
Jeez.
Just not Sony Animation. I
Yeah.
want that to split
Yeah.
off. and
Sony
be its
Animation
own thing.
become its own studio, and then Sony Pictures live action just boils up and falls away.
Sheesh, man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay, well,
Dead Reckoning
we've got
Part
some
1,
questions
good. Let's
to
talk about
discuss.
let's talk about
Very
that.
good.
I want to do mine first because I think it's maybe the worst of the 3 questions, so we'll get it out of the way. And my question is that we've kind of started this trend almost, once again, to make the comparison, almost in the same vein as Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Where it seems like every new movie kind of introduces a new significant cast member. And they've been crushing it, you know?
Oh,
Henry
yeah, dude.
Cavill was an awesome
He was
addition.
so
Rebecca
good.
Ferguson was an awesome addition. Haley Atwell is a great addition. It's been awesome, right? So, and all of them have been added in different ways. They've had different roles that they're filling in. It's not just like, okay, here's the new team member, and this is a team member. There's always a unique and interesting dynamic with the new character, which I love.
Yeah, I thought they did. Haley Atwell's inclusion was great. They
Haley
integrated her
Atwell
very
was
well.
Sweet. Yeah. So I want to know, who's an actor that you guys think would fit in to this franchise, and how would you fit them in? What would their role be? What would their dynamic be with Ethan? Things like that.
I have an idea, and I think that it would be pretty cool, but I do not think that it would ever happen. However, I'm still going to pitch it nonetheless.
I can tell by Lucas's grin that this is going to be absurd.
No, I had a couple
Is it
absurd.
not?
No, it's not absurd.
Okay.
All right.
It's Weird Al Yankovic as Tom Cruise's
Yeah,
son.
all right.
No, it's Leonardo DiCaprio as the agent who recruited Ethan Hunt, and now he is the bad guy of not a Dead Reckoning, but a sequel down the road. Because Leonardo DiCaprio is awesome, and I think having that kind of almost mentor relationship exploited could create some interesting dynamics. Also, Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't really do villains. He's not really ever the antagonist of movies. Very rarely. And so I think it could be cool to see him go against type, but him as kind of like a suave, secret agent man could be great. But I'm now realizing Leonardo DiCaprio is younger than Tom Cruise. So maybe that wouldn't make the most sense. However,
Yeah.
there are
Slap some prosthetics on there.
you don't have to. He doesn't have to be older necessarily, but he just had to have been in IMF before Tom Cruise, and so you could just use that as the
Right.
justification. Regardless, I think he could be a really cool, like, action villain because he's got the suave, he's got the look. It's Leonardo DiCaprio. Who doesn't love him? And I think that could be really cool, just creating that kind of dynamic between those two characters, or just having any sort of dynamic between that. Could, I think, be an effective villain in a future Mission Impossible.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that relationship as well. It doesn't seem as hand-fisted as some of the, fast franchise. This is my brother, and this is his uncle.
This is
Yeah.
my brother, and he's
and
white,
this was-
and we have to spray paint him.
Yeah. Mine, I was also thinking, and this is certainly a recency, availability bias. But Mads Mikkelsen as a villain for one of these movies would be
Dude,
unbelievably
perfect.
good.
So
Mads
good.
Mikkelsen is the perfect villain for anything.
He
ever.
really is. He
So-
really is.
He just gives kind of creepy, intense vibes, and he's
Yeah.
also European.
Yeah.
Therefore
Put those
bad.
together, you've got a Mission Impossible villain.
Perfect villain, yeah.
But having someone who just seems smart and calculated and driven, who, like, that's just been the formula, I think. And
Yeah.
so maybe it's bad to be contributing to the same. It seems like a lot of, again, what you were saying, Niall, is they're pretty innovative and changing and coming up with new things, new ways to, tell a good story. And so maybe my answer is just is too formula. It's too,
yeah.
I don't know, and maybe that's how they subvert the
Maybe that's
expectations.
honestly.
He's not the villain. Tom
Yeah.
Cruise is the villain, finally.
Oh, finally. Just like we've always wanted.
Yeah.
I will say along that line of the Tom Cruise's like character and just like his morality in this is like really cool, the way he's consistent
Yeah.
from movie to movie. Like he doesn't let his friends die, he doesn't let people die unwillingly. He'll murk a guy in the middle of his noggin if they're a bad guy, but
Yeah.
he's very nice and good about, being nice and good to people when he needs to be. And I love that that's consistent with all of his movies.
Well, and so Niall and I this summer watched 4, 5, and 6, kind of in
Yeah.
preparation.
For my first times, I had not seen them.
Not even 4?
Yeah.
Well, I'd seen
Well,
4 one time in theaters when it came out.
Oh, nice.
So,
So it'd been a
So
second.
12 years ago or
yeah,
something.
Yeah.
But there's kind of watching those recently and seeing this movie pick up that torch and continue it. There's some little things that just were more powerful, especially the line in this one where he says, like, again, he always protects his team. Like, he will ensure, like, you won't die, you'll be okay, like, we'll make it through. And then this time he was like, I can't promise that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't promise that you're going to be safe. And like,
It was
and
awesome.
I have to kind of accept that. Oh,
Yeah.
that just hit so hard.
It was nuts. I loved it. My pick for an actor is actually an actress. This
Niall's
is
just looking up hottest actress
Hottest
alive.
now, that being in mind, this answer is going to be really funny. But I was thinking we need someone to come back in as the head of the IMF, right? We need somebody to come in, but I want somebody who's in long term and maybe kind of a la Alec Baldwin at the beginning, but this is kind of more stretched out, wants to kind of shake up the IMF and isn't cool with the lack of oversight and is basically like, no, we're going to kind of do things the way the government does them, and kind of reels things in, but also at the end of the day trusts Ethan and his team, and so there's kind of like push and pull there. Bring in Frances McDormand.
Oh, definitely
She's-
hottest
she's
woman
so
alive, in my
hot,
opinion.
Put her in a room with
With
Ethan
Haley
Hunt.
Atwell. And,
Rebecca
oh, man.
Ferguson.
Oh, man. I wouldn't be able to contain myself. But I just think that, I don't know, again, that's not really like a new role for a character.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be as, like, this is one of those franchises where really there are not a lot of things where I feel like we can say we could have done it better. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, really.
They find really cool creative ways to bring people in. I just like Frances McDormand, and I feel like she would sit really well in this franchise, and that's how I can see her coming into it. But really, whatever they did with her, I would be totally on board. But again, it's like these movies are so creative in their casting and the ways that the characters relate to each other that it really is like, it's hard to come up with something that sounds cooler than something that a Mission Impossible writer would come up with.
Yeah,
So-
honestly. Christopher McQuarrie, the guy who directed this one and Fallout and is doing the next one, also co-wrote Top Gun Maverick. So, and he's got a lot of writing experience on like action stuff.
Yeah.
He's a good egg.
Yeah. So, good answers, y'all. I like them.
Thank.
Yeah.
Let's do Jared's next. Let's do mine last.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, my question Well, I just want to know, what is your what in your life feels like an impossible mission? And how can I, your friend, as your friend, how can I help you overcome that? How can I be your Benji?
How can you?
No, I'm just kidding. Let's save that for post credits.
Sure.
Why?
Save the tears for post
Save
credits.
the tears.
Save the reminiscing.
No, I was just. My real question is, I want you guys to pitch Tom Cruise's next big stunt, right? Like, truly, it seems impossible to get bigger, and I do appreciate this for this franchise. Is every time it gets bigger, it doesn't necessarily get like bigger. You know, like
Right.
we don't have to go to space. We don't have to
Right.
like have a submarine. Tom Cruise doesn't need to put his hand on a torpedo and push it away.
Sure.
No, he's just riding his bike off of a cliff.
A literal
Yeah.
mountain.
It's something that
It's so
anyone
sick.
could do, just no one would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And just
It's
seeing
an
those
impossible
long,
mission.
those long shots of like the camera following it, and there's no
Yeah.
cuts, and you're like, oh, so this is
Real.
And
This
he's
is
got
real.
This
flappy
happened.
cheeks.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, oh, they are filming him falling through the sky right now. Like, there's a camera guy who is parachuting next to him, you know? So
you
cool.
good? You good, Tom?
Yeah,
With
those
an IMAX camera, I don't know how that's even.
the Halo jump in Fallout, there was a cameraman just falling with them. He
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
doing it.
Well, in that shot specifically, walking back and like,
Yeah.
Tom Cruise starts running and just
Camera
continuous
falls off
him
and then he
jumping
chases-
off.
Yeah.
Yep.
So great.
Unbelievable.
So cool. I love that part.
Okay, so new
So
stunts.
let's pitch.
So
you know?
funny you should mention space, because Tom Cruise wants to go to space for one of the stunts in these movies, and
Of course he does. He's a Scientologist.
that's where he lives.
He's like, we can take my
He
aircraft.
wants to fly up to
My
his
spacecraft.
Justice League watchtower.
where he and the other Scientologist leadership reside.
Yeah.
However, I think they could do space well, and in a way that's cool and well done, versus Fast X or Fast 9, F9, the Fast Saga did not do it well
Yeah.
at all.
Well,
And-
honestly, they could do it even with the next Dead Reckoning,
Oh,
where it's
totally.
like, okay, we don't have the key. Somehow they lose the key. We need to access the entity. We cannot access it with our computers because of the whole analog issue.
Mm-hmm.
The only way we can do it is by going to the satellite
oh,
and getting
that
things
could be really cool.
like from that, you know?
That would be very
That's
And
like
someone's like, that's impossible.
and he's like,
And then they kind of
he
smirk
says, "My
to each other.
middle name is impossible."
Yeah, we get that a lot.
so either a space or an underwater. An underwater practically done could be.
I'm certain we're getting that.
In the next one with the
Oh,
submarine.
Oh.
there's going to be a very
'Cause I
awesome
feel like
underwater something.
With these like breath-holding records being broken with Avatar: Way of Water, Tom Cruise
Tom
probably
Cruise
sees
is
it
like,
as a challenge.
so we're going to write a water thing.
Yeah, we're doing a water
Christopher.
thing.
Christopher, write a water thing for me.
So that I can break the record. I can stay underwater for 45 minutes and be fine.
Under hypothermic temperatures.
And the water is 0 degrees.
Okay, so your pitch is a space thing or a water thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Those are good things.
Those are
Aren't
good
they?
things.
What
I-
other elements?
Space and
Right.
water, my 2 favorite elements.
I'm not sure. Mine is actually a different element also. I
Wood.
don't know the situation that would justify this, but I know that it's a thing that Tom Cruise would be like, no, yeah, I'll do that. And the whole team would be like, really don't. And he'd be like, no, I'll do that.
I'll do it.
Which is, find a reason for him to need to rappel into an active volcano.
Oh. Like in Star Trek. Literally like in Star Trek,
Yeah.
but for real.
But for real, yeah. Where it's like, there's some reason that we need to get down there. I don't know. Christopher, you write it. But get that dude into a volcano and then have his rappelling equipment start to malfunction. Or like you see the carabiner starting to like pull
Like
and
melts,
stretch.
yeah.
And so it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now out of nowhere I have a 60-second timer.
Yeah.
And I need to complete whatever I'm doing down here and get out before this carabiner breaks. Boom, carabiner breaks. Now he's free soloing inside of a volcano, and he just has to get out. You know, it would be awesome.
That would
It's
be
good.
wild. That would be really cool.
Yeah. I'll pitch. I really just want something very similar to Top Gun Maverick. The
flying?
fast flying in
Oh.
a tight space,
Nice.
like the trench run, you know what I mean, kind of deal, where he's like, and it could be on. I want it in a plane. I'll be honest with you. I want another plane thing,
Like a
but
fast
just
plane like that? Or just like
I mean,
a little
most
one?
planes are pretty fast,
But
it
like-
doesn't have to be like a fighter.
Yeah,
jet.
that's what that was.
But just something where we can get these long takes of him like inverting and like flying down and pulling up right at the last minute.
Oh.
You know,
But he's
Combine
actually
that with
doing
space
it.
stunt.
but he's actually doing
Because he can
it.
fly a plane.
Yeah.
They didn't let him fly him for Top Gun Maverick because the military's like, no effing way are you going to fly these multi-billion-dollar fighter jets, Thomas Cruise. But he got his little
And
scene
he
at
was
the
like,
end.
"Come on."
He got his
Yeah.
little scene where he got to fly his very own actual plane.
I'll put you on Xenu's nice list if you let me fly the plane.
I'll save you in the last days, my friend.
Yeah, you can be one of the 140,000. You and I, baby.
Oy, oy, oy.
But yeah, I think that would be awesome. Flight plane thing could be sick. I think that would be very, very cool if he did that.
I don't think we've gotten. I mean, we got helicopters, but
Yeah,
as far
has
as
Ethan Hunt,
I don't think
flown
he's
an
flown a
airplane?
plane himself, actually.
Not on camera.
Not on camera, yes.
no,
Harrison Ford also has his pilot license, and he flies planes.
Yeah, he flew Air Force One.
No.
Well, in that movie.
Oh, yeah, that's true. In the movie, then, yes. Cool.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
good.
All right, good stunts. Honestly,
let me.
something as simple as rock climbing done like well, you know,
Yeah.
and put those clear indicators of what needs to go right, and then
Yeah.
showing those things not going right, turns a scene. You know, that thrill is going to be there. And that's what
Yeah.
this franchise is great with.
Yeah,
So-
dude, that rock climbing scene
Having a
in
conversation
Fallout
where
is
it's
so
like,
cool.
no, this carabiner can handle this much weight. And then
And-
maybe like he gets to the bottom and he's thinking he's gonna be rappelling out like a chest or something, and it turns out it's a full person or whatever.
Oh,
so then
yeah.
he's got a person
It's
on
like
him.
we-
It's doubled up the weight. That would be cool too. Him free
Yeah.
climbing with a person on his back.
That would be insane.
That would be great.
I like all of these ideas. Honestly, I would love to see all of them at any point. And recently, Tom Cruise came out and said, you know, Harrison Ford just made an Indiana Jones movie, and he's 80 years old. So I've got 20 more years to catch up to him, which there was a little bit of an implication that the Dead Reckoning movies would be the last ones. And that is not the case. He says he wants to keep making these as long as he can, which I think is awesome because these movies are awesome. So my question for you is, how do you think we end this franchise? Tom Cruise is 80 years old. He's still binging and bonging. They call it Mission Impossible, the last one for real this time. What does he do? What's his mission? How does it end? Does he die? Does he retire?
So-
What do we got?
Humanity is living in a colony on the surface of the sun. That's how
This
we
is just in
open.
real life.
Yeah.
At the time this movie comes out, this is what's going on. Okay.
This is what's happening. Yeah. I actually.
We had to move out there so that IMAX theaters could be the size of a planet.
Yeah, it's IMAX projectors are projected onto the side of the Earth as it has experienced the heat death of the planet's core.
No, but that was a joke, the sun colony thing. Give
Oh,
me
I
a
see, I
sec to
see.
think. Jared, if you have any ideas, go for it.
Yeah. So here's what I don't want. I don't want them to make anything after Tom Cruise. Any of
Yeah, I totally agree.
any Mission Impossible.
Any spin-offs or anything?
So I'm fine if in the end it's him passing on the torch. You know what I mean? This implied, you know.
Yeah. Like in Dark Knight Rises
My internet is
with,
being super bad. It is.
Batman to new Batman.
Robin. It's being bad, but we can hear it.
Yeah, we can hear it.
On a delay.
On a significant delay.
On a pretty... No, I think we're
Yeah,
back.
you're good. You're good.
Okay.
So he passes the torch.
I am fine if in this final movie it's him trying to, like, becoming the director, but then the organization fails or something, and he has to be on those front lines with the people, you know? He's, like, giving their mission, should they choose to accept it, IRL, and then he's like, I'm about to self-destruct in 5 minutes.
Nice. Yeah.
But you have him,
From my-
this change
from my
of the
leukemia.
guard, have him kind of mentor the next group. But at the same time, you know, I don't want any other leading people in this franchise, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I
would just
agree.
be so hard to get behind it if it's just,
Yeah.
I'm a 20-something-year-old, you know,
20-something.
up-and-comer.
Yeah.
And then-
I totally agree.
And
And it can be done. It can be done well. It has been done well.
It's similar to my idea, which is basically have him become the director of the IMF
Yeah.
in like the end of a movie or whatever. And then the new guy that he's, you know, kind of instructing, he's like, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is blah, 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 blah. He lays out this crazy mission, and the guy is like kind of new, maybe a little green. He's like, I'm like, sure, but you're not really going to send me to do this. This is like, nobody can do this. This is ridiculous. Why would you send me? Why are you sending me to do something while you're going to be here, you know, sitting comfortable, and if it goes wrong, whatever. And then homie pulls out a gun, and he's like, who said I wasn't coming with you?
Oh,
Let's go! It's like,
baby.
he's the director, but he's still
a
going
field
on these
operative.
missions, you know? And then you just call it there, where it's like, okay, yeah, he's the director and he's a field operative,
Yeah.
but obviously this dude is too old for us to keep making these. I think the best way to do it is kind of leave it there. It's not like a
Yeah.
big conclusion of like, okay, he's dead or he's fully retired, but just kind of like keep it true to the character while also giving it an ending of like, okay, he's the director now. That's his finish line, you know?
Let me take one more stab at it.
Let's
'cause I
hear it.
thought
Yeah,
of
go.
something.
Go.
Okay.
Okay.
Final movie. He is the IMF director. Okay. There's a new Ethan Hunt. Somebody who's crushing it. Someone who's, you know, every mission they give him, he knocks it out of the park. He's talented. He's gained a reputation. You know, everything like that. But then Ethan noticed something like, what about those launch codes? You know, they're gone. This guy was supposed to get them. That's right. The new Ethan Hunt does go rogue.
Oh,
so now
but rogue
Ethan
in a
Hunt
bad way.
has to, you know, take the gun out again and go do his own mission, impossible mission, to stop the impossible mission that he assigned to the guy.
I love that.
Cool.
That honestly
I like
seems
that.
very feasible in
That
something
seems
that
like
they
something
could
would
totally
do,
make.
for sure.
Um,
What would be cool, also, just for the sake of continuity, is the new Ethan Hunt is the guy that brought him the mission at the beginning of this one. The guy that
Oh,
was
interesting.
at the very
Yeah,
end,
yeah.
he was like,
Okay.
"Welcome to the IMF." You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, okay, it's this new guy. You know, just for like fun
Yeah, yeah, just for-
continuity, because they like to say like, okay, here's this character. This is part of the universe now. You know, and so it could be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Have that connection. Like he's like, I remember meeting you one time. What, you don't recognize me? I brought you your mission
Yeah.
at the beginning of Dead Reckoning Part 1.
and he's like, oh, duh.
Oh, right.
The seventh installation of the
seventh-
franchise.
The 7th of 17. Gosh, how could I forget?
See, that's a good question of how many more of these they're going to make. I think they could pump
3.
out another 7.
7.
Another
7,
That's a
including
lot.
part 2. So that they have... I think they're going to do 15 total. I think we'll get 15 Mission Impossible movies before Tom Cruise.
Well, the other thing that we need to remember
retires.
is Tom Cruise has access to the Scientology medicine, so he's going to live to be like 890 years
Yeah.
old.
That's very true.
And he'll still look
And
sick.
he'll look great.
No, look how he does currently.
They can't figure out
Which is
anything to
40.
get his teeth to be centered, but they can figure out
Well,
how
they're
to
a little
make him
too
live
centered,
forever.
which is the problem.
Well, that's right. They're not splitting center.
Yeah.
One is taken center stage for sure.
So
There were a couple of times IMAX with big close-up shots where his face is like, 60 feet tall, where he was like talking and his teeth were kind of showing, and I was like, dude, that is so weird.
it's not as bad as it was, dude. Pre-braces Tom Cruise was wild.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of what goes on in the inside of his mouth. We know enough about
What goes
that
on
already.
outside of his mouth in the
Yeah,
last
what goes
In the last
Lucas.
installation, this, I think both of your ideas are great. However, I think the way that the whole thing should end is similar. I guess I don't want to spoil any other movies in case people haven't watched them, but
He fails the mission and the world ends.
yes, the entire Earth just gets sucked in on itself. That would be wild. I don't think that would be very satisfying.
Crazy.
I think if it came down to it, he's a little bit older, and IMF is doing great. I don't think he's the director, but he's still a loyal agent who has to go rogue because that's how these missions are always made up in order for him to actually do them. And the final sacrifice has to be made by him, and there's no way around it. But he's able to save all of his friends, and he dies. And, because in every mission it talks about how there's no celebration or whatever, you have to deny it. There's just a little funeral with him and whatever of his buddies are still alive, Benji and Luther. And it's just them. They're like, same old Ethan. And, he is able to sacrifice
Benji's
himself.
got Luther has his black fedora on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that way there's no then we're going to make more, because when there's two sides of the coin, because there's times when you're able to make a conclusion to a franchise that passes the torch. However, then there is always those studios that come along and be like, maybe we could.
I see money.
Exactly. So that if you kill the character in a way that's like, they're definitely like obliterate. Like they're not. It wasn't like, they got shot in the shoulder, so maybe they lived. It's like, they're dead for sure. They were melted in a volcano, and you saw their bones
watch them get melted,
broil up. Yeah, exactly. So that there's
but
no
still
question.
At the funeral, you see behind a tree somebody kind of watching his own funeral.
That would be. If they did that and that was the last one, actually, that would be so lame. That would be so lame to tease something that will never come. But I think it could be really cool if they did kill him off in a way that was satisfying and it was a good conclusion to the whole franchise. I think that's because the other thing is, he does all these stunts, he does all these impossible missions, and maybe one of them he just has to die in order for
Maybe it really is too.
Maybe it is
impossible
impossible this time for him to do it and
Does
live.
How does he die? Does he get ripped in half?
No, I think he gets blown up. It's a bomb situation where
It's a bomb situation. I was thinking it was like a Captain America situation, except he's a normal person, so he just gets like ripped in half.
with the helicopter, he's just like
or something like that, where like he's holding two things together and he becomes the bridge that Benji and Luther have to walk across. And then Luther steps on his head and it cracks his head in half, and then he rips into two pieces.
It's like in this one, the train. He's holding the two pieces of the train together.
Exactly. And he becomes the connector piece.
He becomes the connector piece, and you can kind of
rips
see
him
his
in half.
arms starting to flay, and then you see his organs start to seep out of his creases that are opening
And you're
up.
talking, I mean, because Tom Cruise does his own stunts, you're saying
Yeah.
Tom Cruise
This
will
is how
die
Tom
in the
Cruise
last
is going to
movie.
die. He's going to rip himself in half by trying to hold a train
A
together.
real life train.
On IMAX.
On IMAX, and it's going to be slightly out of focus because it wasn't a great take, but like, what can you do? They didn't have
Can't
any.
do it again.
Yeah, can't go again.
Like, yeah. So, okay.
Anyway.
So Lucas wants Tom Cruise to get ripped in half.
Actually, in real life, to die.
No, I think a bomb probably makes
Yeah,
sense.
a bomb or something like that.
That would be a way to do it tastefully
Yeah.
without just showing him like crumple, like
He
unceremoniously
just gets shot in
on
the
floor,
neck, and it's just like,
Which, by the way, another spoiler for Dead Reckoning coming up. So skip ahead like 1
48
minute,
minutes.
or just stop listening because the episode's pretty
It's
much
the end.
over. But the death scene and the way they handled that was so good. Of Rebecca Ferguson's character.
oh yeah, I was like, who dies in this movie?
Oh, dude. I
Of Palm.
was like, that's how you
Of
freaking
Paris.
do it.
Yep.
You crushed it. Oh yeah, Palm also died, but like
No, she didn't. She didn't actually.
Oh,
die.
that's right.
Yeah, because he
Well,
was like, "We still got a
he's
pulse."
like, she's still breathing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So she'll be back, I'm sure.
Cool.
She'll be back.
I'm excited for
and
her.
she'll be pissed.
Her Joker. Her Joker in this was already one of the better Joker iterations we've gotten in recent years. But
True.
now she's going to be Joker. #Joker reformed.
True.
This
Wow.
is what the spin-off of her character is going to be, which I'm really
Joker
excited to see.
Unlimited.
Joker Unlimited.
Well, cool.
Joker Legacy.
Well, if you want to be around to see all of the upcoming Fast and Furious installments, I can promise you Life Infinite through Astrotology. Feel free to sign up. You can sign up on our Patreon, actually, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's like a $30,000 down payment. So.
Yeah, but then after the down payment, it's only $3 per month.
It's only $3 per
Yeah.
month. And
For the
you get a
astrology
shout-out to
tier,
Cal
it's
at the end of each
$30,000.
episode.
But yeah, you get to shout out Kel. Speaking of, oh man, oh no,
We
I
gotta
didn't get
shout out
the
our
list ready.
Kels.
Give me 1 second.
There's
Stall
only
while I
one
pull
Kel.
this
There's
up.
But
only
there's
one
lots
Kel,
of
but there's
shout-outs.
lots of shout-outs to her this week. We appreciate
Yeah.
all of
I
you
gotta get
for
the list.
supporting us. If you'd like to support the pod, you can go to patreon.com/mancavemovie night. You can also do that on the Spotify app. And if you enjoy what you listen to, feel free to share it with your friends. You know, give it to a
Yeah.
friend.
You
Say,
can also find us
hey,
on-
friend, here's this podcast I like. Listen to it, you idiot. You're not listening to it already? Listen to it.
Yeah, we're not friends anymore.
And then
you
you
stupid
can give us a
idiot.
5-star review, which is always helpful and good too. It helps our algorithm in some way or the other. I'm pretty sure about that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
in one of the ways.
Just support us, please.
MancaveMovieNight.com.
We're begging you. We're
MancaveMovieNight.com is a website. We are also on the YouTube interface, so you can
YouTube.com.
check us out there. And last but not least, we
Enough
just want to
stalling.
give a huge shout out to Kel
It's never stalling.
from Easy Lob, Britton Inkley, Riley Allen, Ian Martin, and Hannah Steed.
One day,
So,
one
shout
day
out
in a
to
few
Cal.
years when we're so big that we just have thousands of people, we're just going to take hours and hours to do this.
Yeah, we're gonna talk
back to a
about
3-hour
the topic
episode.
for 5 minutes,
And then the rest is just
going
gonna
to
be reading people's names.
names.
Hey guys,
Huge
did you see
shout out to Cal
Mission
from-
Impossible 16? Yeah, we saw it. It was good. Anyway,
Shout out to
Yeah, it
Let's
was
give a
fun.
shout
It
out
was
to
okay.
Kel.
Shout outs. Yeah, so if you
Well-
want to give a shout out to Kel, support us on Patreon. If you want to, make it.
we already
to the
said all
true
this
last day,
already. So
$30,000.
we already
and
said
we'll
And
say it
so-
again
and so
on
was.
another Man Cave Movie Night Monday. Bye.
Good night.
Orange boy.